Okay, David, go ahead.
All right, great, Bart. Good evening. Thanks for having me on.
Yep.
This hand was from last week. It was a session I had over at Parks, 2-5 game.
Okay.
I'm under the gun with 10 of diamonds, 10 of spades. I'm 800 effective.
Okay.
There ends up being two villains in the hand.
Okay.
The I raised to 20. The under the gun won 3 bets to 50.
Okay.
Folds to the cutoff, who then flats.
Okay.
Then folds back to me. I'd only been at the table for about 30 minutes. My observations: the under the gun +1 younger had been pretty active, even though I'd only been at the table for 30 minutes. So I figured he was more likely to have a looser 3-bet range.
Uh-huh.
So I elected to 4-bet. I 4-bet to 210.
Okay.
So close to double the size of the pot.
Yep.
And of course, hoping to take it down right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
Under the gun one calls and the cutoff calls.
Jeez. So cutoff, obviously, cold calls 3 bets, and that starts to get juicy for us, right? Because there's extra dead money out there. You make it 210, which you're not making a cold 4-bet. It's not. I think a lot of people look at this and are like, "Oh, it's too big for a 4-bet." It's not really from out of position. I mean, it's basically a pot size 4-bet. It's going to get a little bit awkward, though. I'm sure you didn't expect both calls to come in here, because now all of a
Right.
sudden now you just have like a pot size bet left, right? Basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the pot at 630, and
Yeah.
I'm right about 590 behind.
Yeah.
So right at a pot size bet.
Okay.
Flop was a very good flop for me. 9 of clubs, 7 of diamonds,
Mm-hmm.
and 3 of clubs.
Okay. Yep.
The thought process in my mind is, people calling a 4-bet should have pretty narrow ranges. I'm thinking nines plus, or a lot of ace king, maybe ace queen
Uh-huh.
suited.
Yeah.
Um, the I guess this was kind of the first inflection point, because I don't doubt my initial 4-bet. So it was kind of a matter of, do I check? Do I bet somewhere in between, or do I shove? I opted to bet in between, because that's what I felt I would have done if I had pocket aces or kings.
Uh-huh.
So I bet 250 of my remaining 590.
Uh-huh.
So leaving 340 behind. And then both players call.
Well, here's the thing. Well, let's take a look at the options here. So the only time that I would, well, I mean, I guess you could look at this, and let's take a look at checking here for a second here. So what are the reasons for checking? Checking would be the action is so strong by your opponents, both of them calling a 4-bet, that you just realize that most likely you're beaten, based upon the ranges that call 4-bets, right? Even though you get one of the best flops, right? You're not facing any types of overcards, and maybe, you check, and then the guy from +1 bets, and then the other guy jams, or +1 jams and the other guy calls, and then when you're facing like a jam and a call, then you just fold, right? I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
necessarily think that that's the best play. I don't mind your bet, but I do think that your sizing's way too large here. Again, I don't know if you caught the first caller, though, even though it was cut off on the live stream. The threshold here, I mean, you're betting 250 of what you basically only have like 600. I mean, you're almost putting in your half of your entire stack here. At this point, like, if you go 250 and just one of the guys basically jams, I mean, you can't really fold, right? The pot's going to be like 1400, like 300 for you to call, right? So I don't really like to put myself in a spot here where I I'd almost rather bet smaller and go bet call, or bet smaller and then possibly leave a little bit of an escape hatch where you go like 150, and then if it went jam call, you fold. But 250 here basically just kind of commits you. And, maybe on the flip side to that, people might be like, well, it looks kind of stronger, but I just don't see anybody really folding like jacks or queens or something like that. I mean, I guess option 3 is you could rip it for a pot size bet, which I've actually done before in the spot with like aces or kings, although there really isn't that much of a need to do that. But I think if you were trying to stay balanced with a lot of like high pairs, like you really don't need to bet much here at all when you only have like 600
Okay.
left. Like I think you go like 150, maybe if that. So it's a little bit awkward here. Both players call, so now the pot looks like it's like what, almost 1400, and you have what,
Correct.
like 400 left, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, interesting.
I Yeah, I've got even less. I'm around 340 behind.
Yeah, 340. Yeah,
Uh,
340 behind.
and I've
Yeah,
got the pot at 1380.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So I obviously was not feeling good when both of them called. And then the turn card was the king of spades. So I figured if one of them's calling with ace king, towards the bottom end of I would think that would be at the bottom end of the range if they were sticking around.
Well,
Now they've gotten there, so I didn't think it was a good card for me.
what's funny about this is that if you had actually started with a smaller bet, like I had actually suggested, like a betting like say 150, and then
Mm-hmm.
let's say that both the players called, now the pot would be like, just under like 1100, and you would have like 450 left in your stack. You might even be able to turn your hand into a bluff on the turn. Now you can't really do anything though. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the pot is
Right.
so bloated up here. I don't really see because somebody's going to be getting like 5-1. So now I think you almost have to give up. But if you actually had started with like kind of a very, very small bet, even if you had gone like 125 call, that would be like 375. The pot would be like right around an even, say like 1,000 if you had bet 125, and you would have like 565 left if I'm doing and you'd have a nice half pot size bet. That's why I like a little bit of a 2 street game here with super small sizing on the flop. But now I don't know if you can really do anything. But I do think I take a small exception with what you said, that who's calling with ace king though? Remember the guy
Yeah.
who's first, right? From +1, he has to worry about the cutoff behind. Is he calling with ace king to your 250? And then the cutoff, is he going to overcall +1 when you bet 250 with ace king? So I don't think that
Right.
really anyone really should have ace king, but the pot's so bloated, I don't think that you can get jacks or queens here really to necessarily fold out, which is really what you want
Right.
to have happen here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good point.
So what ended up happening?
I checked the turn. I think I was kind of like you'd said, more in that check and give up mode.
Yeah.
UTG1 goes ahead and shoves all in. He had both of us covered. The cutoff was around 700 effective to start the hand.
Uh-huh.
The cutoff calls the all in.
Well, now you can't call. I mean, it would have been interesting if the cutoff hadn't called, because you said you only have like 340 left, right, on the turn here. Is that right? 340, you said?
Correct.
Because if
Correct. I had 340 behind.
Because if +1 shoved, the pot would be 1740, 340 for you to call, so you'd be getting almost 5-1, and it would be kind of interesting. Or, for example, it still looks strong, but let's say you check turn and then +1 checks and cutoff shoves. You could have a scenario here where you're going to call with, obviously with front door clubs, but I don't think that you can I mean, even though you're going to be getting like a crazy price, I mean, the overlay that you have to have the best hand here. Do you have the black tens here too? You don't have a club in your hand, but I mean, so it's like, what is it, like 21, 2200, 340 for you to call, something like that?
Correct. It was around 2100 and another 340 for me to call.
Yeah.
So I I did lay it down, and then of course UTG1. The river was a blank. UTG1 bluffed with pocket sixes, and the
Okay.
cutoff had Jack 9 suited
For what? Jack nine of clubs? Oh, just Jack nine for top pair?
for top pair.
Oh my god. So +1 jams with 6-6, and the cutoff has Jack 9 suited. So the cutoff wins?
So the cutoff won, correct.
Wow, that is that's truly amazing. It's interesting because if you had checked the flop, it seems like this guy from +1 is out of his mind. Maybe he bets and then the cutoff jams and then kind of the same type of thing. But I think what I would take away from this hand is that when you're in an extremely bloated scenario, first of all, the 4-bet might be a little bit large because of the stack sizes. I mean, you maybe go to like 175, but if you go really small in the flop, especially if you're playing on bet calling against one person here, you can get yourself. I mean, like I said, if you had gone 125, you know you have a nice half pot size bet. Now you have the best hand here, but it's just weird that you do. You know what I'm saying? But I wouldn't get too torn over the results. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that was the way I felt about it. I didn't think there was any way I could have been good in that situation.
Yeah.
But I guess that's part of live poker. And I found out, I did talk to the cutoff afterwards, and the UTG1 was an extremely loose player. Apparently, before I got to the table, he like 3-bet with like 7-6 offsuit or something. So the cutoff was like, if that guy was in a hand, he said he wasn't going anywhere.
Wow,
so that was knowledge I didn't have at the time. But
yeah, that is definitely that's bizarre. Curtis King said, "I hope that you rebought for the max." What is the max in that game, by the way?
It's 1,000.
Yeah. So I hope you went back into the well and rebought for the max.
No, I did. I did. And
okay.
I played at the table for a while longer.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bart.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, and check out the coupon code in the description to try out the Crush Live Poker training site for free.